Morning, folks.
Morning.
Anne Marie, I'm here. Can you folks hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Hey,
Anne Marie,
Bob.
hi, you turning the helm over to me now?
I will right now.
Anne Marie, while we've got you, just a question. Has Catherine turned in her resignation letter?
She somehow disconnected.
Hmm. Okay. Give me a second to get the agenda up, but let's get going. Doing this from the cell phone, one moment. Okay, we are all here. No, let me see. We are waiting for Wendy.
Right, she sent an email saying she can't make it. Something came up.
Ooh. Okay. So we will go forward. Can somebody take notes? I don't think we have to be too detailed about this because most of our discussion is hopefully going to be about the presentation we're going to meet.
Right. She said she'll get she'll watch the recording of today's meeting to get the minutes. That's what she said in her email, which she just sent out like at 7:30.
Okay. I haven't. I was walking the dog. One moment here. Okay. Well, I'm going to get the meeting started. Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Good morning.
For the record, the time is 8:03 on the 18th of January, and we have 5 members present right now, and it appears that we are on Bourne Community Television. I think I see Jen on the sign-in list. Okay. My apologies for not having everything running here. I've got an infrastructure problem. My heat quit. So if I do this and start shivering later on, you know what the issue is. And I was on the phone with a plumber beginning at 7 o'clock this morning. Does somebody have the agenda handy, and let's just pull that up?
I can bring it up if you give me a second here. Let's see. Give me a second. I can bring it up. Let's see. Downloads. Oh, somebody's already done it. Okay, there it is.
Cool.
It's got it.
Okay. I haven't checked in the last couple of days again because of my problem running around trying to find a heating contractor. Did Wendy send out the minutes?
No, she said in her email that she would. I think she said she would get to them, or that she'd send them out. I'll take a look and see if I.
I talked to her on the phone the other day. She's getting unburied, but she said she's going to get to it. She knows it's on her plate, high up on her to-do list to get the minutes out.
Okay. In that case, we will defer the consideration review of the minutes until the next meeting since we don't have them. Let's see. In terms of public correspondence, just a follow-up. The pod that was on Ms. Kelly's, it actually was on a support cable for one of the utility poles out in front of her house, has now disappeared. And I drove by and in fact, it's migrated up and it is now mounted on the I presume it's Verizon fiber optic cable running between utility poles in front of her house. So at that point, I drove north. She's right at Monument Beach. She's right across the street from the lawn furniture warehouse, if you know where that is, just north of Monument Beach. I drove the whole length of Shore Road, and those pods are on about every second, at least, cable run, if you want to call it a cable, fiber run between utility poles. So my inference from that is that those are fixed wireless access antennas. Has anybody actually seen those before?
No, I'm not sure. Does it look like kind of a cylinder that's connected to the cable on both sides?
Yes, some of them are connected to the cable. Some of them actually run on a separate line back to the utility pole and connect to something there.
Okay, I'm going to try and
Can
bring
we get some photos of it? Because those could be a couple of things.
Yeah, I think it's probably something called a coyote, which is a splice point, which in fact, in the wonderful video that Brian sent out for Utopia, you see a bunch of them. It looks like a kind of a cylinder with a fat cable at both ends, or maybe just one end, and the other end has small little attachments. And if it's what I think it is, it's what they use to splice fiber cable. It's quite common. In fact, let me see if I can. Somewhere, I think I have a picture of it. I do. Hang on if I can find it. Okay, let's see if I can. No, I can't find. All right. Let's see if I can find a picture and share it.
I just want to make a comment. I see Jed's lips moving and I don't see him muted, but maybe his microphone isn't working.
See what I show up.
Let's see if I can.
Yeah, I'm seeing the same thing. Jed's got a comment, but and he's not muted, and we're having something issues.
Let's see if I can share this. Okay, I can't share it until Jed unshares. I've got a picture of a coyote splice. Okay, hang on a minute. Let me see if I can get it up. Yeah. Okay, let's see if that's. It looks something like this.
Hang on.
Yeah, that's a splice enclosure.
Yeah. Did it look something like that, Bob?
What's the diameter of that?
Just a few inches. They're like 3 inches, I think, the ones I've seen.
These are a bit bigger than that. They're like 6 or 8 inches.
Yeah, this says 9 by 25 on the description.
Okay, then it could be, yeah. I've only seen them up on poles, but that's generally what that is. And if it's up there, because I don't think that they would have any antennas connected mid-cable. They would probably have it on a pole someplace. I would think that this is what this is, and it's what they use to splice cables or break them out.
Is my audio working?
Yeah, it is now.
Hello.
Yes.
What I was going to say is I think there's a very low likelihood that's fiber, and it's a very high likelihood those are coax splices.
But it's supposedly Verizon, according to
Well, it's brand new. It looks like it's on the line that Verizon had been putting up, and I followed it in both directions, and it runs from about the Bourne Bridge, underneath the Bourne Bridge, at least on Shore Road, where I found it, Shore Road and Sandwich Road, and it goes all the way down about as far as Briarwood, the north end of the town forest, and then stops there.
Can we get
So,
some photos? Because it's tough because that route also has open cape on the same pole. So like guessing who's got what when they're not providing
Yeah.
the info
Well,
is tough.
if you can trace it back to Verizon, I didn't think Verizon would be on Shore Road. Then I would agree with John that these are future splice points.
Okay, I'll go
Yeah.
out and try to take some photos. That
right.
when I did drive it, the traffic was a bit heavy, and there was no real place to pull over. So
Yeah, because Comcast has these all over town. You know,
Right,
where they-
Comcast uses them too, and
Yeah.
they're
Okay.
exactly the same. So
Yeah.
I know in Natick that I had a problem, and I actually had one hanging in front of my house, and I called a friend of mine from Verizon, and I said, I think something broke off there, a tie wrap, and he had a supervisor go out, and they said, oh no, it's not ours, that belongs to Comcast.
There's some
So they all
forums
use-
online where you can play guess the provider from the equipment. If you tell them the location, you get really clear shots of the gear. There's some people that can back into whose gear that is with good certainty, especially with the cell phone towers. Those are better able to tell from those antennas.
Yeah, but yeah, so it's definitely a splice point, not an antenna.
okay,
Let me turn my video on now.
Right, I'll stop the share.
I'll bring back the agenda.
But yeah, we should keep that. We keep looking into this one, get some photos, and bring them back here and talk again next week.
Okay, keeping the same agenda. The next item is the under 4A is the select board presentation update. And Tony, Wendy, and I have been working away on this right now. And we everybody saw the email that went out.
Yes,
Yeah.
I did.
Okay. First of all, just general thoughts on it. Tony, we worked through a reduced outline of the long form document that you got, and then Tony very nicely transposed that into the PowerPoint format that you see. First, any general comments from anybody about it, just in terms of the amount of presentation? Likely, I'll only have 15 minutes of real speaking time up there, not counting questions, of which I think will generate a number. But is that too much information? I really do want to say we did what you asked us to do in our charge. And, we're as true to that as we possibly could be, because they keep, there's grumbling in the background occasionally about us ranging far and wide. It's relatively minor, but I don't want that to get back to the select board and then have us say, well, what exactly did you do? So
I thought it was good. I thought you did it, and it was succinct. And I also thought I was happy to see that you did not steer away from some of the financial issues. I mean, it's towards the end of the presentation, but you lay it out and also leave questions open, saying we're looking into this. This is the scope of our investigation. I thought it was very good and succinct. I really liked it. V2 is the one I looked at. I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good too. The one thing that did pop into my mind, as you mentioned, Bob, is how long it's going to take you to get through that. So I don't know I don't have a good answer to that, but I think you're going to struggle getting through that in 15 minutes. I really do.
What we're thinking of doing, at least the three of us on this little working group, is to take the long form outline, clean that up a bit, and give that to we'll start with Anne Marie. Unfortunately, she can't be here. She's got to run to a doctor's appointment. The wonders of post-COVID, been there. But anyway, give that to her first. Then, after we get some comments from her, then send it, the long form report at least, off to the select board. Okay. And let them look at that well in advance. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe,
Yeah.
and just say, look, this is what we're planning to present, to go over. And then what I can do is skim over some of the minor points and the relatively minor points in the charge and get down towards the bottom end of the whole thing.
All right, good. Yeah. Because I think the last two slides are where you really, I was thinking spend 5 minutes on everything but the last two and then spend 10 minutes on the last two.
Oh, amen. Amen.
Okay.
Yeah, and I had made a comment during our meeting that if you consider how many man hours or person hours this group has put into this effort over the past quarter, I think going over 15 minutes by a few minutes is appropriate.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I think we need more time. So if I'm hearing you correctly, Tony, you're saying we're going to need a little bit more time.
No, I'm saying, I mean, Bob can manage the time, I'm sure, but I think it's disheartening to me to be given 15 minutes at a meeting to discuss what we spent the past 3 months working on.
Yeah. Seven people times at least two hours a week just for meeting time. So that's 14 hours a week times that's 60 hours a month times 4. So we're getting up to in the hundreds of hours that have been put in, not considering even the off meeting time where people have been putting in a lot of work.
Is there a way to convey how much effort has been put in by people passionate about solving this issue, in a way that enhances our message that, despite all of this, in spite of all this work we've put in and, all these talented people we brought together, we still need more help and we really need the select board to act now? Is there a way to, use that to our advantage for how to move forward?
I think, if we could, just guesstimate how many hours each of us has put in on this since September, and not like we're keeping timesheets or anything, or anybody does. Just say we've been meeting weekly, and that's generated work for each of us every week. And as a consequence, we've racked up a number of hours, and I think we have hit very salient decision points, which are all in the last slide. And now this is the time for the select board to make some decisions about acting and going forward on this. Does that make sense?
Well,
Yeah,
I think I think what it is, not necessarily act, but to strongly consider what we've presented and kind of let us know, which areas they are interested in pursuing. Because again, when the money issue comes up, I think that's going to perhaps require some deliberation on their part, and they won't be able to tell you right away.
Right. Okay,
So is
I
there
have
a way
to think
to
about
submit a report, maybe to keep the meeting simpler? Do we submit what we've already done as a separate report for them to read over, and then maybe for the presentation mention, as a reminder, hey, the number of hours, report's already been submitted or what's been done, and then focus on the go forward? I'm open to anything that people think might help. So,
well, I think that's what Bob was saying, that instead of just ignoring the slides, just don't spend a lot of time on them, refer to the report at the beginning and then just skim over that and then jump to the end.
Yeah, maybe lead with like, hey, it's been 200 and something hours of skilled labor, highly skilled labor here, and we could skip over this and go right to our recommendations, or go over anything the select board wishes to review, kind of thing.
Well,
Well, maybe
I
not skip
believe we're
over
going to
it.
submit the report in written format to them ahead of the meeting. And again, I think it's appropriate to go over a lot of this for the public to see.
Mhm.
What,
Right. I think it's also
Yeah.
important to point out what we've done, just to let them know we're just not shooting in the dark here. There's been a lot of research that's gone into this. By skipping over what we've done, people who are not initiated in this type of research could think, oh yeah, they spent a couple of hours and now they're asking for a lot of money. I mean, you hear this talk all the time, and obviously, if you've been following the town budget, there are a number of items that have come up, including the school committee asking for additional funds. So I think that the select board is going to be under some pressure to decide where the priorities are. So I think it's showing that we didn't just come up with this, we didn't just pull this out of a hat, that we've actually been working on this. Is a positive thing. Don't think we should skip over. I think we should say this is what we've been doing. We haven't been fooling around here.
exactly. And then we can get into the details of what we're asking for. And by the way, I think we can post this as a call it a joint meeting, or at least the input from the whole committee, and it'd be ideal to have everybody in the room, okay, as opposed to anybody just listening. So I have to figure out how to do that.
What date are we targeting?
That is going to be, it's probably going to be the second, maybe the second Tuesday, first or second Tuesday in February. So,
Okay, probably be available. Gigi,
Yeah.
sticking around until Gigi's here.
right.
We'll talk about that later.
So that'd be the 6th or the 13th. Yeah, I mean, I can definitely be there.
To have, we definitely need input from them before we go into a room where to listen to or talk to Gigi's song. So we'll get to that further down. Okay, there's some changes in typeface, etc., that I'd like to do to make it more readable, but I'll fiddle with that. I've done a number of those before, but I think you're right. I think just skimming over the big parts of it, I may highlight a few words here and there in terms of accomplishments out of each one, just turn them into bold so those stand out for anybody viewing from the audience. But the PowerPoint will go out in the packet beforehand, so people will be able to follow along. For anybody who is who is trying to watch on TV, they may have to do that. Just because I don't know if you've tried to see any PowerPoints on Bourne Community TV, but until they come up with the new equipment, the resolution is fairly poor. Okay. In fact, that'll be more of an impetus for MJ maybe to call up Comcast again to ask them to prioritize that, because it's interfering with town business. Okay, well, so I'm going to make another pass through this and do some a bit of streamlining here, and our little committee will work on this. If you would take a look, if you could, at the other report, that long form that we gave you, I think is going to be the outline for our report. Well, pretty much going to be the report. And what do you think of the idea of trying to do much of it in bullet point, as opposed to long paragraphs of text?
I like it.
Yeah.
Okay. We don't need subjects like we, etc. We don't need to put it in sentences, and they don't need to read those words. They know who we are.
Right. I think maybe a brief narrative at the beginning and then a summary at the end, with all the bullet points in the middle might work well.
Yep. And that way we can keep the thing to a manageable number of pages. I don't know if you've ever looked at a select board full packet. but I've seen some that run 800 pages.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have seen a couple. Yes, some of the latest budget stuff is I don't know how they get through it.
The budget stuff is absolutely mind-numbing if you have to look at it line by line, which they do. Okay, I'm going to leave that at there right now. I was expecting some people would have criticisms, etc., that we'd have to go back a little bit to the drawing board on it, but I'm going to just continue on polishing this up. With the idea that after I polish the slides next week and we do some work on the report, you folks approve it next week and we hand it to the, I may hand it all to Anne Marie beforehand to get her input on it since she's not here. And then we go forward and approve it for formal submittal to the select board and ask to be put on the agenda. I think that's the formal process. Okay, moving forward. The next item is liaison with the Cape Cod Technology Council. I guess it's the infrastructure or broadband committee. I sat in on that. The meeting was yesterday. Brian came a little late. So Brian, I'm going to start the discussion if I may, and then you can pick up where you signed on. One of the an interesting topic there was that there's a lot of interest in essentially a lot of complaints about how the whole Internet for All plan really does not consider kind of the seasonal lack of service that we suffer on the Cape and maybe some other resort areas, but at least in Massachusetts, it's on the Cape. And the NTIA model for challenges, et cetera, doesn't accommodate that really. There was some discussion, since we've gotten very little communication back from MBI, about bubbling it up and trying to hit other elements of government that different agencies that sit on the board of the Mass Technology Council and oversee MBI to basically make that point. And there was discussion about going through the Cape Cod delegation, and the folks on the Outer Cape are really close to Senator Sear and Delegate Sarah Peake. We have had good relations with Steve Exaros and have heard nothing back from the stuff we've sent to Vieira's office. But the other thing is we could potentially use Gigi Son when we get down to that as a very high level, almost appointee by the Biden administration, who has certainly the ear of various levels in government, and she knows FCC real well. She was nominated to be a commissioner. We perhaps could use her or maybe Senator Markey as an in to get into somebody in the executive office of the governor, who has some say over telecommunications, and basically just say, look, we've gone through the challenge process. We met all the rules. They were absurdly fast, but in general, we were putting lipstick on a pig that really doesn't meet the needs of anybody on Cape Cod because of the seasonality issues. And I'm sure there are other places that where it doesn't deal with the breakdowns that we suffer. There are certainly going to be other places that have old Comcast equipment that suffer breakdowns where the investment needs to be made, and neither of those are covered under the rules for the comments on the Internet for All challenge process. We cannot challenge seasonality. We cannot challenge the fact that the equipment is decrepit and breaks down all the time. So, reliability is not one of the criteria. Anyway, there was discussion of that about how to move forward, and I think a draft letter has been started by what's his name, Eisenberg, from Falmouth, potentially to submit to the governor's office or to Senator Markey, and try to get some kind of a meeting with somebody who has some pull at higher levels above the MBI management. Brian, you want to add anything to that?
And at the very least, the tech council seemed receptive to, for starters, sending a letter, essentially mimicking what we already wrote with the issues with the upcoming BEAD program and the speed testing, and or potentially take further action since they need to go to their board about that.
So the tech council itself, the executive board, is going to meet on the 26th, something like that. So there's a letter that's being drafted and circulated. This might be something that has to go before the select board before Bourne can sign on. Although, you know, there are a couple of very complimentary comments, and this mostly goes back to Brian for the level of detail on comments on the challenge, et cetera, process in our two letters. So there might be reference to those, or it might be a more general, just I won't say complaint, but just a discussion that the process really doesn't consider where the real needs on Cape Cod are. So there may be a draft letter that gets presented here as early as next week for us to approve and then pass on to the select board. So watch this space. Okay. Jed, anything to say about any of the activity in the other towns?
So the only town that's meeting for the most part is Falmouth. They finished all their reviews of all the RFI responses. They had all in-person meetings with everybody but Comcast. By the way, yeah, they didn't even invite Comcast, by the way. They weren't happy with the review, so they didn't meet with them. But all the other responses, they met with everybody. So the next meeting, they have two main things they're going to review. So the replies for the request for services for the general manager position were due earlier this week. So they're going to review those. And then they're going to start to formulate whatever it is they're going to do next based on the RFI responses. Okay. And then Wellfleet still meets. They have a one-item agenda when they meet, and it just says project update. That's all they post, and then they don't post any minutes. So presumably they're still moving forward, you know, but there's nothing that they're discussing publicly about what they're doing.
They are. They have funding to extend fiber down to the beaches, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that right when we talked with them, they basically have one of the team members or one of the committee members is a project manager and is essentially running the project. And I think what they do is they meet as the three once or twice a month just to get an update from the one guy. I forget his name. And that's it. That's pretty much all they're doing.
Okay. Well, of interest is what kind of equipment are they going to put on the end of the fiber? So if you hear anything about that, that would be of interest. You know, is that going to be, you know, some kind of a local cell antenna?
No, for sure not. Not in the beginning. They're talking about cell in the long run. I think all they're doing is extending the town network. And I was thinking about this. You know, they have those big lifeguard stations and those points of presence on the beaches. I think they're just going to run fiber right into those buildings.
Okay.
Right, and then connect it to the town network.
Okay. Well, be interesting to track that.
Yeah, it would. I mean, you're right. I mean, that's I was thinking about that myself, but that was my conclusion that they're not going to fool around. They're just going to hardwire all the buildings. Why not?
Yeah. But in terms of emergency response, I mean, those buildings are not staffed all the time. So
yeah, they pretty much
24 hours a day. I mean,
not 24/7. You're right. And I mean, I guess they could have like a fire alarm or some kind of a gizmo on the side of the building you could pull. But you're right. To extend that, they're talking about adding cellular. But that wasn't in the initial plan.
Yeah, if they get the connection all the way to the lifeguard stands, it's a lot more flexibility. They could just drop a Wi-Fi on each one of them or something.
Exactly. Yeah. So
And then,
Yeah.
yeah.
that seems like the thing to do. But
Right.
they weren't going to do public Wi-Fi last I knew.
Yeah, they
were
didn't
just
want to
gonna-
overload it.
Well, not just that, but they got to manage it, right? I mean, how do you got to set up a web page, you got to decide who gets in, if you're going to pay for it, you got to have a back office. So they weren't, none of that was on the original plan.
Yeah, I helped them write the original grant, so it was purely for town employees' use, because right now they have to go all the way up the dunes, get out to the road, call it in, and adds, tens of minutes to a life-saving operation. And so the only consideration was safety.
Okay.
I thought the original consideration was actually, and then this is probably long term, was the idea that they would have some cellular service for areas, particularly on some of those dunes where there's nothing out there. And if people get into an emergency situation, I mean, that was what they were originally talking about. But I can see the difficulty they would have would be then they would have to work it out with the various providers to put equipment in there, which they might very well be able to do if the town is willing to supply the fiber connection. Then it might be pretty easy for Verizon or AT&T to put a cell somewhere out there very near the beach.
Yeah, and that, to be honest, I mean, that's actually Troro's problem too, and all the way down those beaches from Provincetown all the way down to Nauset. The cell coverage out there is abysmal, and every one of those towns is complaining about it.
The advantage of town employees only is they could just have a training class on how to enable Wi-Fi calling for all their safety staff and just be, and call it a day, and then punt the whole issue of a, Verizon, T-Mobile antenna and all that. They could, defer that problem by just Wi-Fi calling training to all their safety staff.
Now, the other thing that they could do is Wi-Fi calling. I think does work. For those of you who have at least Apple phones, when you turn the thing off, there is an emergency button that you can hit, and that, in my understanding, is that works both via cell and via Wi-Fi. So that will
normally even regular calls do. In other words, inside my house right now, my cell reception is not good, but I'm basically doing Wi-Fi calling. The other thing is the latest Apple phones also have a satellite connection. That's how they got those people out from that gorge in Colorado. Yeah, I think what is it? 15 and beyond, I think, have this emergency satellite connection.
Oh, okay, good to know. Well, in any case, they have options available. I'm just trying to think about the particular problem that at least we have right here at Barlow's Landing, is that anytime there's been an emergency, people have in the past have had to go up and knock on doors to try to get somebody to go and call a police or call an ambulance.
That'd be a different set of considerations because it's unmanned. So we would probably, in any deployment there, would have to take that into account. Whereas theirs have staffed beaches, so it's a slightly different.
Exactly, and structures. Yeah, understood. Just thinking down the road. Anyway, okay, let's terminate discussion on that and move forward to the next item D, which is a mass broadband coalition. This is really easy. There was no activity in the last week. So I'm going to move forward to E, to MBI's National DEI meeting in Boston on January 24th. Brian, if you're going to be around, since you're in the Boston area, could you be so kind as to try to attend that?
Yeah, let me see if I can find where the invite is. I can make that.
Yeah, Anne Marie sent it out. I've got it if you need it. January 11th, she sent out the registration.
Yeah, I see it now. Let me sign up.
Okay.
Again, that would be also an opportunity to talk to people from other towns. Anybody you can trade information with, trade email addresses would be useful. people we can send who are in similar positions, we can send our information out.
Actually, I
My
take that
guess,
back. That was a different DEI thing. Can you forward it to me, Jed?
Oh, yeah. There you go.
I'll let Brian look at that for a second and then just confirm that he think he can be available.
Well, you're pretty optimistic about the email forwarding.
Got it. Let
You
me
got it?
take a
That's
look.
not bad. All right.
9 a.m. Yeah. Center Plaza. I can probably make that.
You staying in Wakefield now, Brian?
I am in Boston proper, so
Oh, very good. Okay.
that wouldn't be a huge headache to get to.
Yeah. Where is that meeting? I haven't read the venue.
Oh, Springfield. What the?
Is it?
Springfield?
Maybe they have multiple meetings because it's showing over 2 days. So maybe make sure to go to the right one. Oh, it's Springfield on 23 and Boston on 24. So
Oh, okay.
That's a little bit closer for me to go to Boston.
Yeah, one Center Plaza, Boston. So
Oh.
that's like where City Hall is, right?
Right.
10
Right.
Park Plaza. Okay, I will sign up.
Okay.
for
Very
it.
good. So it looks like you'll be able to attend, Brian, right?
Yep.
Okay. The next is the Cape Cod Technology presentation with Gigi Son. Is everybody more or less familiar with Gigi Son? Brian sent out some material yesterday just as background. She's a real heavy hitter in terms of public access to broadband, etc.
Yeah, somewhat. I mean, I followed the FCC turmoil and I've read some of her stuff.
And her new position, she is the head of what is it called, Brian?
I think it's National Association for Public Broadband.
Right. So again, she's a real advocate for that. And I think, Brian, after you come back from that, you might want to consider making a motion, whether you think it's approval for us to have Bourne join that association.
Yeah, so we'll definitely get an impression of what they're all about. It looked like there was some nominal fee there, so we'd have to send that to the select board. I think it was like $1,000 a year for voting governments. But potentially it would allow the town to have some say on national matters, or at least a voice in Washington for a relatively low price.
Mm-hmm. We need to determine also whether somebody like the Cape Cod Commission or the Tech Council is going to join, because the select board is certainly going to ask, what is our vote bias, as opposed to us influencing any of these other organizations. So just keep that in mind in terms of what the benefits to the town of Bourne would be. Okay. Having said that, the next item, her presentation on the 14th is in Hyannis, I believe, right?
Yes.
Okay. As we get closer to that, we can probably post an agenda, essentially saying that we're going to be attending, so anybody can attend and discuss or sign in and discuss as appropriate.
I was thinking about this, Bob. I think it's okay that we don't post an agenda as long as we have the, what is it? As long as we don't, talk about committee committee, and what is it? Committee activities.
Business, yeah.
Tony?
Okay,
Yeah,
Yeah.
if it's essentially attending for informational purposes, the rule says that as long as we don't discuss that stuff amongst ourselves and we're just there to gather information, there's no public meeting restriction.
Tony, how did you guys handle this?
If there's a quorum of people at a remote meeting and you're there, you can attend the meeting, but the quorum, the individuals aren't supposed to discuss anything. If you discuss anything pertinent to our charge, then it becomes a public meeting.
Right.
well, certainly they're going to be, the subject of her talk is going to be the subject of our charge. And I guess it's a matter of, kind of if we're in the room, sit in different corners of the room and not talk to each other.
Yeah,
Well, it's either that or
basically.
you don't have a quorum go.
I
Yeah.
say so I feel like this is a discussion we should have when there's an emergency in person, and whereas this one is telegraphed far in advance, I think it might be just safer to post it and not have to worry about these restrictions, and save stressing about it for some time when it's like,
Okay.
hey, this thing's happening tomorrow and we should be there.
Okay. So I would suggest that we only do that if it turns out that we're going to have 4 or more people there.
Yeah, who all is interested in going to that? I know I am.
Yeah, I'm interested.
I'd be interested in going.
Okay. I know Wendy was interested, so we've got a quorum right there. Okay.
All right, there you go.
And
Do we know what time that is? I don't remember the invite. Is it an evening or an afternoon or?
Let's see.
There might be multiple things because potentially she's about to announce something in Falmouth. So something with the Broadband Coalition, and the other meeting we already have the invite to via Tech Council. So potentially it's going to be a couple of different things over a couple of days.
Yeah, I don't think it's been posted yet.
She's in
Right.
town between the 12th and the 14th, so I'm expecting at least 3 whirlwinds of meetings or 4 that we might be privy to.
okay. Well, again, if we get more information on the venues, the times, et cetera, that kind of will determine who goes where. We'll have plenty of time before that. We will have also had our discussion and presentation to the select board before that, hopefully. So we may have more updated marching orders from the select board or not. So we'll have some, maybe have some updated information where we actually do need to discuss among ourselves. So it might be appropriate to just post that, keep ourselves honest. Okay. Moving on from that, the next item is media outreach and review. Wendy is working on an article that would go to the enterprise. Clearly, it's not done because she's a bit behind on other things. Although I, again, just note that she, Tony, and I put in a lot of hard work on this presentation, so that kind of had priority. Moving forward with the speed test update. Basically, we got the door kind of slammed shut to us from the Cape Cod Commission a little bit. They said, gee, our contract is with the town of Bourne. Any of the interim data is a contract work product, and it's not ready for prime time, so you can't have it.
Didn't they provide? I thought that was in that pile of stuff that we got from Marlene.
Yes, we got most of what.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
Yes.
I wouldn't characterize them as unhelpful. They're just truthful about what stuff they are allowed to share and not.
Yeah,
so we did get that pile that Jed also saved of MBI data. Yes,
right.
It's their own internal one that they did that started slightly later, is not officially done yet, so they can't release it. So that's the distinction there. But they've always been extremely helpful and thorough and detailed. So.
We've gotten whatever was public as of I think that submission was, I can't remember the date. It was in December. We have everything up to there. I did send a another email off to the public access officer of MBI, asking for any and all tables and files of any and all recent speed test data for Bourne, as well as any other documents pertaining to Bourne. We may get exactly the same stuff that they sent, that the Cape Cod Commission sent off to Marlene. We will see.
And
Yeah,
on
now
that
this-
note, I figured out one of the reasons why Cape Cod Commission and MBI could not respond, and it was a licensing restriction with the FCC data. I forwarded it out last night when I read through it. So this is in the, whenever we asked for like, hey, MBI did this slide and it says all these places are underserved, can you send it so we don't have to like go and prove in the speed testing that those sites are underserved, and all we at best we get is a coded location. And it turns out in order to reference that code to an address requires a license, and it's a free license. And if we get it as a government, it allows sharing between other license holders. So MBI already has a license and CCC already has a license. So potentially if we execute that license as the government, then it allows more information sharing. And, when they already do all the hard work, just hand us the raw data with the real addresses because we have a license, and save ourselves a ton of headache.
So do I hear a motion to have either our committee or maybe the town administrator apply for that free license?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Brian
Second.
moves. John seconds. Okay. All those in favor?
I
Okay. Any opposed to that? Okay, so we're going to go forward. Brian, could you be so kind as to just put a short paragraph on that together, and I will submit that to Marlene and ask her to apply for the license.
Sure, I can do that.
If you got names, addresses, etc., on where to go, that of course would be needed by them. But
yeah, it's all online. It's just a digital thing. A lot of it's like you're not gonna commercialize their data and steal it kind of thing. So they've already had to issue a giant license to the FCC and whatnot. So
okay.
Bob, can we go back to the pile of data we got from Marlene through from Cape Cod Commission through Marlene?
Yes.
Two things I want to point out. So one of them, it includes all the UCLA data that Cape Cod Commission collected. So that's also in there. And the other thing is that I zipped it up, and I've got it on my Google Drive. Should I make that link available to the committee?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I'd love to see that.
Okay.
The committee, yes. We might need to double check the license before making it public, because some of that UCLA data is licensed. So
it is public.
it is public. Okay, I'm just checking. I didn't want to. When we're about to fix the license, I didn't want to trip a contract.
No, I think it's already been circulated around town. I don't think there's any issue with it being public or not.
Okay.
I wouldn't worry about that.
Okay.
Jed, if you've got that open, I can't get it posted quickly, but if you take a look at page 12 on the Bourne MBI results, there's a very interesting table there. Or Brian, can you post that up? If somebody could stop sharing the screen, and then if Brian can pull that up quickly. I've got it on my my laptop here, but
Yeah, all right, I'll stop sharing. Are you talking about the Massachusetts DEI survey results?
yes, it's the Bourne MBI results, and when you go down to the bottom on page 12, there's a very nice summary that Brian and I were talking about. Oh, come on.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. I was shocked when I saw that. Yeah, you talking about the table?
Yes, yes. It basically, according to the 68 or 64 tests that they did, it's only a couple of places that seem to have real upload deficits. Although some of the minimums that they show there. By the way, the minimum for 02559 for download 0.9. That's my data point.
I don't
Welcome
get
to-
this at all. This at 618, where are they getting that?
I know. So that's in Sagamore Beach.
But that's
That 02551.
download. So that's conceivable. Someone in the all properly spec'd equipment, not too far. That
Yeah, if they
definitely
bought the
conceivable.
Comcast one gig, maybe. The upload speed, I've never seen anything close. Most of the time, if I hit 10, it's a miracle. It'll
You need to
get
hit
close.
20 to be considered
Right.
served. So if you can't have trouble struggling to hit 10, you'd be underserved.
Right. I mean, of course, I haven't really. That's the way that the service is provisioned, and for me to get more, I have to lease Comcast's modem, which comes with a router, which wants to share your internet connection. So, I mean, because I own my own, I'm not going to pay them $10 a month or whatever they want ad infinitum for it. But yes, you have to buy their system and then pay more money for the speedier upload speed, in theory. Because I'm at DOCSIS 3.1 now, and I got a nice improvement in download speed. It gets to I've actually hit around 350 with it, but upload, generally speaking, and I have pretty good underground connection, 8.5, and it's very spotty. It goes up and down as you go. It never exceeds 10.
That's interesting that you're saying that the privately owned modem can't get the speed.
Yeah,
provision.
I have the latest one. I mean, I have what they recommended. That I told you last week that I had a problem installing it because they have to authorize it by MAC address. So yeah, DOCSIS 3.1 is as far as I believe they can go right now with and they said, oh, you get this specific modem, which I did, and it works fine. But basically, even they told me that this will increase your download speed from 200 to 400, and it doesn't quite make 400. But it did increase my download speed. Upload speed stays the same, and it's got to do with the way that the number of frequencies they use and the way they modulate it. I mean, they designed the system to be unbalanced on purpose because I think they figure most people are using their internet connection for video, basically.
So in anticipation of the future speed tests, and this is going to be a question that's going to come up, and this is a good test example. Could you send Jed and myself a copy of your bill?
Oh, sure.
And the model of your modem.
Yep.
And a link to the list of approved ones.
Okay.
I'm sure Jed and I are going to want to kick the tires of that to see what's going on.
What's the manufacturer? You know that?
This is I can't remember. It's a company that I think came after Motorola.
Aris.
Aris. That's what it's an Aris,
yeah.
And it's
is
an
it
Aris
white?
3.1.
Yeah. Okay.
The
Yeah.
surfboard, they call it Aris surfboard.
I know it too well.
Okay, right. So it actually, the previous one I had worked fine, but they sent me an email. I don't know, it was like late last summer, saying, "Hey, did you know you could, for what you're paying, you could now increase your download speed at no additional cost, but you have to update your modem." So I went and bought it, and it took me a while to get around to actually installing it. I put in a new wireless router first.
So this is how Comcast will immediately challenge this. So this is why I think it's we just look at yours, John, directly. So send the two of us your bill, your model, your and the link to where they said this one was going to be okay with what you have, so we can just check it, because potentially in any speed testing setup, we've got to make sure we ask for we don't know yet what we're going to need to ask people to provide to make sure the challenge is a strong one.
Right. I don't know what they're doing right with their own specific modem. It's that box they want to send you, the little cylindrical box.
And you're concerned about the public Wi-Fi hotspot in that. There's a way to disable it, but it's kind of difficult to locate.
Right. And I in my previous professional life, when I put in a 1 gig bidirectional for NBC and discovered and it was supposed to be a very secure transmitter location, that in fact they had left it turned on. I had to download a 100-page instruction book and dig through it till I found out how to shut it off. This is how they. I can drive around and occasionally I'll look for available networks, and Comcast comes up. And being a Comcast subscriber, I can log in, and it's coming from some poor guy's, internet in his house. Is basically what's happening. They're sharing your personal internet.
No,
That
they're not.
website gives all the addresses of those. You can go on a map and find the nearest one if you need Wi-Fi and you can't get on.
Right.
The nearest live one.
Right.
But it's probably a better discussion to have offline because,
Right.
and we move on to the other agenda.
Yeah, I
items.
will get you that stuff. It may not be today because I've got some
No
appointments.
rush. We got enough on our plate.
Yeah,
But I'm
yeah,
just thinking through the later for the speed testing challenge. This is, if there's a question that needs to be asked up front with it, we want to know now, and you're a perfect example to test this on.
Okay. Yep. I will see what I can dig up, because if I go online, they will show me everything.
Okay. So we've concluded with item H, the speed testing. We're going to move on to poll data requests to the utilities. And does anyone have an update on what is the name of the regulation that basically I can't remember.
Gonna look at that.
Who are they?
What, you mean the one touch?
Yeah, the one
It came
touch
up last
regulation.
week. I gotta find that now.
Well, there's two, right? There's a federal and a state going on,
Mhm.
right?
Right, there was a federal and a state law, basically, and I'm trying to look for where that FCC.
I think I emailed out a summary document ahead of the
You
last
did, and-
meeting, but it wasn't on the agenda, so we had to punt it to today.
Right, and I added just one line to it, Brian, just kind of parenthetically, just to ask for you. Brian wrote a very excellent letter with comments to the FCC, stating, well, these are some of the shortcomings we see. They're looking to improve the law. They made one rule and they're looking into additional rulemaking. And I just added a line about it would be helpful in the information that if it became available from the public utility to tell you the number and location of poles specifically, because before we even have to look at the idea of what's a red tag pole and what isn't, and what the additional costs would be to fix those poles, we need to know, at least from what I've seen from all the stuff Brian said, we need to know the location of the poles and how many there are, because that's what all these contractors are asking for before they'll, give you a quote, or they want to charge you a lot of money to go around and do a pole count. So, and we know that Verizon and Eversource have this information on file.
So what's happened is they've passed a bunch of rules, and so some of the rules can't do anything about because they've been passed. And then there's a couple of them that they are soliciting comments for. And so the document, I wrote up some comments from the perspective of a small town. And then the other one is a generic letter to the utilities requesting the data under the already passed rules, authority granted therein. So they're both in the same document for just, it was the ease of putting them together because they're somewhat related.
Okay, I'm going to just bring that up. That's the document right there. And I can see if I can blow it up a little bit. So apparently we're not the only municipality that has had issues trying to get information from utilities. One of the things about this rule that Brian and I both saw is the fact that to be able to apply for this information to the utilities, you have to be some kind of an established entity. So in other words, if we were to say theoretically have some kind of an MLP or hire a contractor to install townwide fiber, they could then request some data, and they'll tell you what the data is there, and then they're looking for more comments on further rulemaking, and that I think Brian addressed in a very nice letter, a theoretical letter that he wrote up, and then I added a small line about again requesting locations and count.
Again, what is the deadline for this closing public comment on this docket?
We
February
think it's
13.
Right. It's normally 2 months from the day that they post request.
2 months, not 30 days. Okay. So
Right.
we have time. can we, why don't, my suggestion, Brian, is recirculate the letter and we'll put it on the agenda for review and approval. Does this need, if this is only comments on a regulation, right? It's
Right. I think
anything
Anne Marie said that if we were to send it, we could either send it as an individual on the committee, but not representing the town, or we have to have the select board sign off on it. So
It's
I
only
don't,
3 line items, so it might be faster than you think to send through the select board. It's not very contentious.
okay. So we need to have everybody approve it. So could
I'll send out a Word copy for people to make comments in the document and circulate back, I guess.
circulate back to you, and we'll do a final review next week, and then get it on the select board agenda.
okay, I'll stop it.
Should I separate the documents or keep them together?
I'd separate them.
Keep them as 2 separate Word files. Yes, if
Yeah,
you could.
so because we're going to handle them individually, I think, when it comes to any kind of votes.
Okay, sounds good.
And if they're simple enough, that could be almost a consent agenda for the select board. So that's a rubber stamp. And that could occurs obviously separately from our presentation to them. If they postpone our presentation to the 13th, that's too late.
Okay, yeah, I'll circulate this out maybe soon.
Okay. Jed, for the next agenda, if you want to just change the wording on that item, basically say comment letters to the FCC.
Yeah, well, I wrote review and vote to approve FCC comments on notice for proposed rulemaking.
Excellent. Okay. The next item, moving on, point of contact for the bridge infrastructure. Again, Anne Marie is not here, so we don't have a report on that. Okay. Meet next week. I was hoping we would get to the point where we could meet bi-weekly, but we still have enough going on and enough deadlines that we still have to continue meeting weekly.
Meeting length's getting shorter though, thankfully. So.
Yes, we're going to do this in an hour. My God. Okay. Thank you all so much for putting in all the background work to make this happen. All these things happen so much more quickly.
Yeah, one thing I should bring up to still give you guys a heads up. I'm not going to be around the next 2 weeks.
Okay.
So someone else is going to have to handle the agenda.
Okay, I'll do that. Nominally should be my job.
All right, so I'm
Okay.
sharing the proposed agenda for next week. Right, you can see that. So I've got the first 3 items pretty much the same. I think I kept it the same. I added on I added the request to the town for the CostQuest license, so we can talk about that.
Yeah.
I kept the poll data request as a top level item and just added a sub item on the NPRM, if that's okay, or I can make
yeah, that's good. That's fine.
Okay. And then I left the new bridge fiber infrastructure item there.
Okay. Again, I don't have an update. I was hoping Anne Marie could tell me whether whether Catherine has submitted her formal resignation, which would open the opportunity for the select board to advertise and whatever, and for Wendy to add into her media outreach, her column for the enterprise, that we have this position open.
Yeah, so she's still listed on the website.
Yeah. Okay, and I sent her an email and I asked her just to let me know when she had submitted her resignation. I haven't gotten anything back, and I've been consumed for the last 3 days trying to get heat in my house, so I haven't had time to go over and call Barry's office to see whether that letter had been submitted there.
Yeah, they're pretty good about it, about keeping that list up to date.
Yeah. Okay. With that,
So we're okay with the agenda?
I'm
Everybody's okay?
everybody's fine with that. Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna save it and then I'll send it over to Maria when we finish here.
Very good. Thank you, Jed, as always. Okay, our next meeting again will be 8 a.m. on next Thursday, as the agenda says. With that, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
We adjourn.
Okay,
Second.
Tony makes a motion, Jed seconds. All in
Okay.
favor? Anybody
Aye.
opposed? Okay, thank you very much, folks. I'm going to do another tour and get some more photos of those pods so people can see exactly what they are and how many they are. We'll see where we go from there. I'll have to do a walking tour so we don't get run over. Okay, have a
Okay.
good week, folks.
See you
You
later.
Good luck with my heat.
All right, good luck.
Yeah, good luck.